Hey guys, tonight we journey into a land of flame-tipped clouds and restless winds. Where the sun doesn't stroll across the sky, it sprints. You open your eyes beneath a crimson dawn, only to find the day already half spent. The birds don't sing, they rush. The trees don't sway, they barely catch a breath before night falls again. The world is trapped in fast forward, and everything feels off. Your shadow flickers by your side, confused. One moment it stretches tall like a kauri tree. The next it vanishes. You reach for a bowl of water and the sun is already climbing down again. Something isn't right with the sky. And it's not just you. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments, where are you listening from? And what time is it there right now? Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. The air is warm, thick with summer scent, ferns, salt, and smoke. You sit beneath a pohutakawa tree whose flowers never seem to fully bloom before the light fades again. The village is quiet, but not from peace. People mutter, grumble. Time, they say, is broken. You walk past the fishing nets, half mended, the garden plots, half weeded. The drying racks, half scorched. One man throws up his hands and sighs. By the time I gather driftwood, the sun is already gone again. Another woman groans. My weaving's all knots. Can't even see the threads before they vanish. Everyone blames the sun, that arrogant, golden beast racing across the sky like it's late for dinner. And so, you look east, toward the place where the light begins. Toward answers. But answers, as it turns out, wear mischief like a cloak and a smirk like war paint. You hear a name, Māui. It dances between whispered complaints and loud, hopeful sighs. The name of someone who might fix this, or ruin it more spectacularly. You've heard stories, of course. Who hasn't? Māui the shapeshifter, Māui the prankster, Māui who fished up islands with a jawbone and tricked the fire goddess into sharing her secret. He's not a god exactly, but not quite mortal either. Somewhere in between, where the real fun happens. You wander to the edge of the village, to the place where the cliffs spill into mist and the ocean pretends to nap. And there he is, Māui, leaning against a boulder like it owes him money. Hair wild, eyes sharp. He's chewing on a stalk of sweet grass, gazing up at the sky with a look you've seen only on kids about to do something that gets them banned from tree climbing for a month. He doesn't say hello, doesn't need to. He just nods toward the sun, already halfway through its rude dash across the sky, and says, "We need to slow that thing down." You blink. Like, with what? A really big sunblock? He grins. With rope. Of course, rope. You sit beside him, unsure if this is madness or destiny. He starts sketching in the dirt, circles, knots, symbols older than the moonlight. The plan is forming. He talks of enchanted flax, volcanic caves, and the place where the sun sleeps. Wait, you say, the sun sleeps? He nods. Just before dawn, deep in the east. That's when it's weakest. That's when we strike. You're about to ask what exactly strike means, when he tosses you a length of twisted bark and says, "Start practicing your knots." You try. You fumble. He laughs. "I'm serious," he says, "unless you want your eyelids burned off by an angry ball of fire." Fair. That night, you return to the village, your mind spinning. The firelight casts long, stuttering shadows, as if even it can't keep up with the sun's pace. Children fall asleep mid-story. Elders mutter to the sky. Someone burns dinner again. There's barely time to cook rice, let alone invent philosophy. And somewhere in the sky, the sun rolls its bright eyes. Unfazed, you lie back on your woven mat, staring upward. What would it take to slow a star? A trickster? A rope? A ridiculous amount of confidence? Probably all three. As sleep curls around you, soft and sudden, you hear Maui's voice echo once more in your ear. "We're going to catch the sun." You almost laugh, but part of you believes him. And part of you, just a little, wants to be there when he does. You wake before dawn, just as the stars begin to retreat like shy dancers behind the velvet curtain of morning. The sky is bruised lavender, and the horizon holds its breath. Māui is already awake, crouched beside a flickering fire that crackles like it's in on the secret. He's not alone. 4 other men sit around him, his brothers. You've seen them before. Strong arms, stronger opinions. The kind of men who think pulling trees out by the roots is normal weekend behavior. They're grumbling now, poking at the fire, clearly not thrilled to be summoned before sunrise. Why are we here? One asks, rubbing his eyes. To change the sky, Maui replies, like he's inviting them to borrow a canoe. You sit beside him, still bleary, and listen as he explains. Again, the problem. The sun runs too fast. He says, gesturing to the east. We plant, it dies. We fish, it hides. We weave, we burn. The days are thieves. The brothers don't disagree. But slowing the sun? Have you seen the sun? One mutters. That thing's on fire. Another adds, I'm not wrestling a star. Again. You raise a brow. Again? Maui waves them off. We're not wrestling. We're trapping. He starts drawing in the dirt again. Rings. Knots. Lines radiating outward like some kind of celestial blueprint. We go east, he says, to the place where the sun is born. We lay our traps. We catch it as it rises, while it's still weak. There's silence. Then. We're going to lasso the sun? Maui grins. Yes. Like, with rope? Yes. One brother mutters something unrepeatable involving facial burns and giant firebirds. Maui continues undeterred. We'll make ropes from flax. Strong ones. Enchanted. Woven under moonlight with old words and ash. You notice something then. He's serious. Not just mischief serious, but purposeful. That rare flavor of Maui where legends start to sweat. The eldest brother sighs. Let's say we believe you. Let's say we follow. What if it works? What if we do catch the sun? Maui shrugs. Then we teach it manners. Historians still argue whether Maui truly had brothers involved in this tale or whether later storytellers added them for dramatic effect, or shared blame. Either way, the dynamic is real. Maui may be clever, but he needs help, and whether out of loyalty, boredom, or pure curiosity, they agree. You begin the preparations together. First, flax. Not just any kind, though. This is muka. The strong inner fiber. You trek to the swampy edge of the valley, where it grows long and wild, humming in the breeze like nature's violin. The brothers hack, strip, and stack. You try your hand at it and end up with sticky fingers and a very judgmental duck. Back at camp, Maui begins the weaving. It's not like normal rope making. He chants as he twists. Ancient words, syllables shaped like wind and flame. One brother hums along. Another adds charcoal markings to each finished length. Symbols that shimmer in firelight. You join them, fingers sore, but determined. The ropes grow. Dozens of coils, thick as your wrist, strong as the sea. And as the sun dips low again, too fast. As always, you sit around the fire with blistered palms and smoky hair. One of the brothers tosses a rope across his shoulders like a hero's cloak. Maui looks at the pile of finished cords and says, tomorrow, we walk east. You wonder how far. Far, Maui says, as if he read your mind. To the place before time begins. Vague, comforting. That night, you dream of the sun as a great golden beast, pacing in its cave, muttering about mortals and their silly knots. You see it blink, stretch, then leap into the sky with a roar that burns the tops off trees. You wake sweating. Maui is already packing. The brothers are stretching, wrapping bundles, arguing over who gets to carry the enchanted jawbone, Maui's legendary weapon. A chipped, gleaming thing carved from his ancestors' remains. Don't think too hard about it. You sling a rope over your shoulder. You're going to catch the sun. And it starts now. You leave the village at dawn. Yes. Actual dawn. The sun doesn't even notice you. It vaults into the sky like it owns the place. You squint against it, already sweating, but you don't stop. Behind you, the village fades. Ahead of you, the sky yawns wider than ever before. You follow Maui, a trickster, a brother, a demigod, and somehow, the only one reckless enough to tell the sun to slow down and mean it. The road east is not really a road at all. It's more of a stubborn path between wind-shaped cliffs and root-tangled forests, where the sun slices through the canopy like it's in a hurry to get somewhere else. You trudge beside Maui and his brothers. carrying your length of enchanted rope and wondering if maybe, just maybe, you should have stayed home to help repair the fish nets instead. But then you pass a field of withered taro. The plants, scorched and stunted, droop like old men trying to tell stories no one has time to hear. You hear a woman shout from a nearby hut. 3 days of work gone in one afternoon. Another man waves his fists at the sky, as if the sun cares. It doesn't. That golden tyrant tears across the heavens again, bright and impatient, dragging time behind it like a child pulling a toy too fast to enjoy. You feel it again, that injustice of it all, the sheer rudeness of being rushed. No wonder Maui's doing this. You stop at a coastal village, just long enough for the brothers to barter for smoked eel and fill their water gourds. As you rest, a local elder pulls Maui aside. You can't bind the sun, he says. It's meant to run. It keeps us humble. Maui just smirks. It keeps us exhausted. The elder shakes his head and hands over a small pouch. Charcoal from the first fire. He says, mark your ropes with it. The sun sees patterns. That night, beneath a crescent moon, you all sit in a loose circle. Maui hands you a piece of charcoal from the pouch. Draw something old, he says. You hesitate. Then draw a spiral, like the koru, the curled fern symbol. Life, balance, a beginning that never really ends. One of the brothers scrawls a fishhook. Another, a sun with tears. Maui draws an eye. It blinks. You sleep under stars that shift a little too quickly. But you dream slowly, deeply. You dream of the sun as a giant taniwha, scaly, glowing, tangled in ropes it never saw coming. You wake to laughter. The brothers are bickering about who snores loudest. One insists it's Maui. Another blames the rope coils. Maui, smirking, simply points to you. You shrug. If you snored, it's because you were finally still. As the sun rises again, blazing, unapologetic, you march on. And along the way, you begin to understand just how much this quest matters. You pass a group of children playing in the shadows of trees, rushing through their games before the light disappears. They see the ropes. They see Maui. Their eyes widen. Are you really going to catch the sun? One asks. Maui kneels, leans in close. Not catch, he whispers. Convince. Isn't that harder? The child says. Maui grins. Much. And he straightens and marches on. The path narrows again. The forest closes in. The light slants sideways, casting everything in gold and fire. You can barely keep up. One brother starts wheezing. Another stumbles into a bush and declares war on its thorns. The trees begin to change. Stranger bark. No birdsong. The wind grows still. You ask where you are. Maui points ahead. We're almost there. To where? The edge of morning. That clears it up. You sleep in a cave that night. The air is cooler, quieter. The stars seem unsure, like they're waiting for the next chapter too. You dream again. This time the sun takes shape as a giant eagle. Its wings dripping fire. Its eyes old and disappointed. You think I moved too fast. It says. You nod. I must. It replies. Or I burn the world. But you're already burning it. You say. It doesn't respond. It just flies away, trailing sparks. You wake with that heat still in your chest. The final stretch is rocky, sharp, cruel. The terrain here was never meant for feet. It was carved by time and flame and stubbornness. Fitting. As you crest the last hill, Maui stops. He gestures ahead. There, he says. That's where the sun sleeps. You squint. It's a hollow in the earth, vast and black, rimmed by scorched stone and low, whispering wind. The ground hums. Even your rope feels heavier here. It's not dawn yet, but close. Too close. The sun is coming, and you've got work to do. You don't speak. No one does. The cave ahead breathes. Slow, low exhales of warmth ripple from its dark mouth like steam from a giant's nostrils. It's not just a cave, it's the cave. The one where the sun sleeps. Or maybe just hides between sprints. Maui steps forward first. His brothers follow, eyes darting toward the horizon where the sky is beginning to blush. You feel it too, like time itself is coiling tighter, ready to spring again. You clutch your rope. The charcoal marking seems to pulse faintly in your hands. This is where the trap will be set. Maui turns to his brothers. We won't get another chance. When the sun rises, we need it bound before it gains strength. They nod, not eagerly, but with the quiet courage of people who know it's too late to back out. Each brother takes a rope. Maui distributes them like sacred tools. He saves the jawbone for himself, hanging it at his side like a thunderbolt disguised as a family heirloom. You move quickly. 2 brothers begin anchoring ropes to the blackened rocks. Another weaves a snare across a natural gap where the cave narrows. You help tie knots around scorched tree stumps, still warm, like the sun had left them as warning posts. Maui walks the perimeter, muttering chants, dragging his fingers across each rope, like a conductor tuning a symphony made of tension and string. Remember, he says without turning, don't speak to it, don't pity it. The sun only listens to strength. One brother snorts, you're one to talk about listening. Maui smirks, I said the sun, not me. Still, the air is heavy now, charged. Even the birds are quiet. Somewhere deep in the cave, a faint rumble begins, the sound of something ancient shifting, like a sleeping god rolling over. You freeze. Then, the light, not full-blown sunrise, but the edge of it, a distant glow rising slowly behind the cave mouth like someone igniting a great lantern. It's coming. Maui gestures. Everyone takes their place. You crouch beside one of the central snares, rope in hand, fingers tight, heartbeat louder than it should be. Across from you, one of Maui's brothers breathes into his fists, lips moving in silent prayer. You remember a rumor you heard once, whispered by a coastal storyteller, that the sun isn't a ball of fire at all, but a living creature, a spirit cloaked in flame. Its face never seen, its voice never heard unless summoned by blood or bone. And today, you're summoning it with rope. The light grows, gold first, then sharp white. Shadows begin to twitch, the air warms in your lungs, and sweat slides down your neck. The rocks glow like embers. And then, the sun emerges. It doesn't crawl or peek. It erupts, blazing, massive, a crown of fire with no face, just light. A roar that isn't sound fills the air, like your bones are being shaken by a silent drum. The ropes fly. You and the brothers pull tight. The snares snap closed, coiling around beams of light like serpents. The rocks shudder. The cave floor trembles. The ropes sizzle, but hold. For now, the sun thrashes. Maui charges forward, jawbone raised. He moves like a shadow made of lightning. He leaps through the fire, dodging flares, spinning, slashing the enchanted jawbone through arcs of burning wind. Each blow lands with a crack, not on flesh, but on light. The sun recoils, ropes tightening. For a moment, just a heartbeat, the golden beast seems stunned. And Maui speaks. Slow down. No roar answers, just heat, rising, blistering. One of the ropes snaps, curls to ash. A brother yells. Maui swings the jawbone again. You throw another rope, eyes watering, skin burning with light, not fire. Slow down. Maui shouts again. And this time, the sun listens. Just a flicker of hesitation. A pause in the flickering. A subtle contraction of its enormous form. You yank another rope tight. The tension surges through your arms. You glance across the trap. All hands are still holding. Just barely. Then, slowly, the sun lowers. Not all the way. Not submissive, but cautious. The heat lessens. The light steadies. Maui stands firm. We do not ask you to stop, he says, quieter now, only to move with care, with kindness. No response. But the sun no longer fights. The ropes still hold. For now, historians still argue whether this battle truly happened, or if it was symbolic, a tale to explain seasonal shifts. The waxing of days. But you're standing in a crater of molten rope and steaming stone. And it feels real. Eventually, the sun calms. The ropes are loosened, not dropped, but relaxed, tied to cliff roots, left in place, like a leash the creature chooses not to test. The light remains steady, strong, but no longer rushing. The sun rises higher, slower, measured. And Maui? He drops the jawbone, kneels, and smiles. Smoke still curls from the cave floor like the ghost of a lightning strike. You stand there blinking in the strange calm. The kind that only follows chaos, A silence that hums with what almost happened. The sun now climbs gently, casting long, forgiving shadows instead of those rude little stubs you'd gotten used to. It doesn't race anymore, it glides. You feel the warmth settle in your skin, not a burn, but an embrace. It worked. Maui stands at the center of it all, chest rising and falling in deep, satisfied breaths. His hair is singed, his jawbone is cracked, his tunic smells like charcoal and victory. One by one, his brothers gather around. Their arms are streaked with soot, their hands red from pulling ropes against a star. But their eyes? Lit with awe, with disbelief, and maybe a little irritation. Next time, one mutters, "Just write the sun a letter." The others laugh, because now they can. There's finally time to. You join them, wiping ash from your palms. Someone hands you a gourd of water. You drink deeply, staring up at the sun, still rising. But slower now, like it finally remembered what it means to be part of this world. Not just above it. Did we hurt it? One of the brothers asks. Maui shrugs. We didn't harm. We reminded. The ropes, what's left of them, still cling to the scorched rocks. Tied to sacred roots, held by carved anchors you hadn't noticed before. Each one is marked in charcoal with symbols, spirals, eyes, fishhooks, stars. You recognize yours. It's still there, still pulsing faintly. Someone will ask later what became of the ropes. Some say they were buried. Others say they turned to light. There are even stories that their remnants formed the southern auroras. Ribbons of color flaring in the skies near Antarctica. Historians still argue about that part. But right now, it doesn't matter. Right now, it's time to go home. The journey back feels different. The land stretches wider beneath the slower sun. Forests no longer rush past you. Shadows grow and shift like they're trying on new clothes. Even the wind has calmed. You pass familiar places, but they feel transformed. The river sparkles longer. The taro leaves aren't shriveling. The birds, finally, have time for a second verse in their songs. When you stop to rest, you lie on your back and watch clouds drift lazily across the blue. You'd almost forgotten clouds could drift. Maui says little. He walks ahead, lost in thought. You can tell he's turning the whole thing over in his mind like a stone, examining the weight. The smooth parts, the edges that still sting. One night, while the others sleep, he sits with you by the fire. The sun has memory, he says. You nod. You've felt it too, that strange awareness. Like the light watches now. Not hostile, but alert. Maui stares into the flames. I think it let us win. You raise an eyebrow. You think it chose to slow down? I think it was tired, he says, and maybe lonely. You don't respond, not because you don't believe him, but because somehow, deep down, you do. When you arrive at the edge of your village, the reaction is not what you expected. No trumpets, no feasts, no immediate celebration, just confusion. People look up, blink, squint at the sky like it's malfunctioning. Why's the sun still here? One man mutters, wiping sweat from his forehead. Another frowns at her drying rack. I had to flip the fish halfway through. It's too bright now. A child cheers. We can play longer. An elder groans. I took a nap and woke up in the same light. You glance at Maui, who looks dangerously close to laughing. One of the brothers grumbles. We fought a flaming god so they could complain about sun angles? It's a strange kind of homecoming. Still, the change settles in slowly. Routines adjust. The gardener replants. The weaver picks up her threads and actually finishes a cloak. The fishermen smile, less sunburn. More fish. You return to your hut and find it cooler than expected. The sun didn't just slow, it started sharing better. Maui doesn't linger. He stays a few days. Long enough to eat, sleep, bathe in the sea. Then one morning, he's gone. No farewell, no smoke signal, just a smooth stone left outside your doorway, marked with a spiral and a barely visible fingerprint pressed into its center. You keep it. Sometimes, you think the spiral glows. And on especially clear days, when the sky burns gold but moves gently, you swear you can still hear him say it. We didn't stop it, we taught it to see us. You wake slowly this morning, stretching under a blanket of soft, lingering sun, and for once, you're not rushing. The light hangs in the air like it belongs. Not like it's on a countdown. You roll onto your side. Breathe in the scent of cool flax and cooked taro drifting from a neighboring hut. No scorched bread. No clanging pots trying to beat the setting sun. Just the gentle, measured rhythm of a village waking up. You wander down to the beach, toes sinking into the wet sand, and realize something odd. People are smiling, not forced, not the kind of half-grimace people wear when they're pretending it's a good day. Actual, easy smiles. One man has even built a second fishing rack, finally confident he'll have daylight to dry the full haul. You find yourself grinning too. Then you hear it, Maui's brothers arguing. Again. They're on the edge of the village, seated around a driftwood log. Mid-debate. You've heard this one before. I held the center rope. One says, puffing his chest. No way. Scoffs another. I had the anchor loop. Without me, that sun would have scorched us all. You ease into the circle quietly, sipping from a cup of coconut water someone hands you without asking. A third brother shakes his head. You both forget. I made the first knot. The one that held. The fourth just leans back, arms crossed, smirking. You all glance at him. What? He says. I didn't do much, but my rope didn't snap. There's a pause. Everyone grumbles in reluctant agreement. Maui's not here to referee, which somehow makes the argument louder. But it's different now, less about ego, more about nostalgia, like a bunch of musicians arguing over which riff made the song famous. You're asked for your opinion. You take a sip. Think for a moment, then say, I think the sun slowed down because it was too busy listening to you lot bicker. That gets a good laugh. One of the brothers claps you on the back so hard your teeth rattle. You all sit together until the sun is high, still rising. Still slow. Someone suggests going inland for a hunt. Someone else says no, let's just nap. Another declares this is the first morning in memory where doing nothing feels like doing something sacred. And no one disagrees. Later that day, the village holds a quiet feast. Not a grand celebration, just bowls of roasted kumara, fish grilled over fragrant wood, woven mats in the shade. Maui's not at the center. In fact, he's not even mentioned much. He's become a whisper again. Part of the background, like a wind that stirred everything once and then moved on. But you feel him there. In the way the elders lean back a little more. In the way the children dare to finish games before being called in. In the shadows that stretch long and lazy across the sand. Someone's playing music now, a bone flute. The melody rises like smoke. And for a moment, you imagine the tune curling toward the sky. And the sun, listening. Historians still argue whether the tale of Maui slowing the sun was an allegory for seasonal understanding. Or maybe just a metaphor for human time. But when you're there, when you live it, it's not metaphor. It's memory. You take a walk after the meal. The kind of walk that spirals with no direction. You pass the garden. The crops have grown longer than you thought possible. You pass the weaving shed, the looms no longer abandoned midday. You pass a child napping in the shade. And then you spot something new. A carving. Small. On a flat piece of driftwood. Placed near the cliffs. It shows 5 figures, 4 holding ropes. One holding a curved jawbone. They stand before a swirling shape carved like the sun. But not angry this time. Not wild. Just still. You run your fingers over the carving. Tracing the lines. You wonder who made it. Maybe one of the brothers. Maybe a stranger who just felt the story and needed to give it shape. A quiet voice breaks your thought. You think it'll stay that way? Someone asks. It's one of the brothers, you're not sure which. He looks different today. Less defiant, more thoughtful. You shrug. Depends if the knots hold. He nods slowly. They always say the ropes were magical. But I think it was us. Just us, holding. You sit together for a while. Legs dangling over the cliff's edge. The tide rolls in below. The sun hangs in the sky. Steady as a drumbeat. And somewhere, beyond the visible world, you suspect Maui is already planning the next ridiculous, reckless, impossible thing. The sky is beginning to shift again, not in speed, but in mood. There's a crispness in the morning breeze. The kind that wraps itself around your ankles like a reminder. You head out early, chasing something you can't quite name. Drawn back toward the place where it all began. No one comes with you. The brothers have returned to their fishing, weaving, storytelling. Maui has, predictably, vanished. One day he was carving spirals into a tree trunk. The next, nothing but footprints leading into the bush and a half-eaten bowl of sweet taro left behind. You can't explain it, but you need to see the cave again. So you pack a satchel. Not much, water, a bundle of flax rope, habit, maybe, and a pouch of charcoal markings you've kept since that night. The walk feels longer this time. The novelty has worn off, and your legs ache in a way they didn't before. Still, you push on. The land has changed. You notice things you didn't see the first time. Ridges in the cliffside shaped like faces. Trees whose branches reach not upward but eastward, as if they remember. And the birds, they sing more, longer songs, as if the world finally gave them time to finish the second verse. You reach the edge of the cave just as dawn spills over the horizon. And what you find stops you. The ropes. Still there. Not all of them. Many have crumbled, burned, vanished, but a few remain, tied to roots, looped through scorched rock, weathered but intact. One even flutters lightly in the breeze like it's sighing in its sleep. You step closer. The air here feels heavier. Not from heat but from memory. It clings to your skin, curls into your breath. The cave itself looks darker than you remember. Less like a mouth and more like an eye, watchful, tired, but not angry. You reach out and touch the nearest rope. It's warm, not hot, not dangerous, just alive. You sit on a rock, letting the sun rise slowly over your shoulder. It doesn't lunge anymore. It climbs, steady and almost cautious, like it remembers too. You pull out the pouch of charcoal and begin redrawing some of the old markings on the remaining ropes. Not because you think it needs them, but because you do. Ritual is funny that way. It's never really for the gods. It's for us. You hum quietly as you work. A tune you don't remember learning but somehow know. Then, from deeper in the cave, a soft sound, a whisper. You freeze. Nothing comes out, nothing visible, just a shift in the air. Like the cave exhaled, a breath long held finally released. You're not afraid. You whisper back, "Thank you." And it feels right. You return to the village with soot on your hands and peace in your chest. You don't tell anyone what happened. You don't need to. But that night, you place a stone at the edge of the village. Just like Maui once did. You carve a new spiral into it, thinner than before, but longer. It almost doubles back on itself. Like the path you just took. The children ask what it means. You tell them, it means time listens. They nod. One draws their own version in the dirt. A very lopsided spiral. You smile and don't correct them. That evening, as you lie in your mat, the sky orange and slow, you remember a strange detail Maui once mentioned, how he believed the sun had other names. Not just Ra, or Tama Nui Te Ra, but older names, secret ones, names that only stars whisper. Historians still debate this, whether ancient Polynesians believed the sun was a conscious being with moods and motives. But here, in your bones, it feels true. You look up, watch the last gold drip from the sky, and for just a moment, you wonder, what if the sun didn't just slow down because of the ropes? What if it slowed, because someone finally asked? You wake to the sound of laughter. Not giggles, not cackles, something fuller. The kind of laughter that tumbles out of a village like smoke from a cooking fire. Warm, shared, and just a little chaotic. You sit up slowly, stretch, and step outside. The sun is halfway up the sky, slower than it used to be. Still steady, but you notice something new. The light is softer, not dimmer, just more comfortable, like the sun has decided to stop showing off. Then you see what the fuss is about. In the center of the village, a full-blown mock ceremony is underway. Someone has wrapped themselves in flax ropes and is stomping around shouting, "I am the mighty sun. You cannot stop me." Another chases after them with a carved jawbone and exaggerated rage. The crowd howls. You shake your head, trying not to smile. The kids are running in circles, pretending to tie each other up. A small group is fashioning miniature suns out of dried gourd shells and string. Then, trapping them with vine loops tied to tree branches. It's not sacrilege, it's celebration. Maui's brothers are there too. Of course. One of them narrates dramatically from atop a crate. and then I, the strongest of them all, loop the final rope around the sun's foot. Another snorts. The sun doesn't have feet. Idiot. It does in this version. They bicker. The kids cheer. Someone throws a mango. You catch it. Later that day, a small carving ceremony takes place. Young artisans, inspired by recent events, gather to etch the story into wood panels for the meeting hall. You watch as one girl carefully chisels a spiral, her tongue sticking out in concentration. What do you think the sun was thinking? She asks. You think for a moment. That maybe we were brave. Or maybe, just finally paying attention. She nods like that makes perfect sense. You stroll toward the edge of the village, where the cliffs give way to sea. Along the way, you notice a group of elders sitting beneath a grove of trees, weaving new rope. Not traps, not snares, stories. One thread is dyed red, another black, another gold. Together they twist into something not meant to hold, but to honor. You ask them what they're making. One elder chuckles. Memory. They invite you to join. You sit, take the end of a new cord, and start weaving. It's clumsy at first. You're more jawbone wielder than flax bender. But your hands remember more than you expect. As you work, you hear the stories start again. Do you remember when Maui stole the fire? And the eel goddess? Still haven't forgiven him. Or the time he turned into a bird and tricked his own grandmother? You smile. The legends pile on like driftwood at high tide. Some you recognize, some feel new. All of them point to the same truth. Maui is many things. Trickster, hero, nuisance, brother, but above all, messenger. Someone who challenges the way things are, not for ego, but for change. Historians still argue whether Maui was a singular figure or an amalgam of many trickster archetypes across the Polynesian world. But no one argues about why these stories persist. They endure because we need them to. You return home at dusk. Your rope coil complete. You hang it above your door. Not as a trophy, but as a thread of history. The light that touches it feels different, earned. That night, the village holds a quiet feast. No speeches, no competitions, just people sitting close, bowls passed hand to hand. The sound of waves folding onto shore. And above it all, the sun eases its way toward the horizon like it finally understands that this is enough. You walk down to the water alone. The sky burns with oranges and indigos. The air tastes like salt and slow fire. You step into the surf, ankle deep, and look east, toward the place where time change. And that's when you see it. A glimmer on the horizon. A faint, glowing line that disappears as quickly as it appeared. You blink. Was it a memory? A leftover spark from the jawbone? A fragment of rope unraveling across the sea? Or maybe, a nod from the sun. You whisper, we remember. The wind stirs. And for a moment, the tide pauses. Just a heartbeat longer than it should. The next morning, the village wakes slower than usual. There's no alarm from the sky. No slap of heat demanding everyone be halfway through their day before their first cup of kawakawa tea. Instead, the sun stretches itself across the sky like someone turning over in a warm bed. You sit near the cook fire, sipping something sweet, watching smoke curl upward in lazy spirals. A neighbor waves. You wave back, and then a child runs up to you, clutching something in their hand. Look, they say, beaming. I found one. In their small fingers is a rope fragment, no longer thick and enchanted, but still recognizable, frayed, blackened, soft at the edges. The child holds it out like it's treasure. You take it gently, and for a moment, it pulses warm. That's when you start hearing the rumors. Not just here, everywhere. Up the mountain path, someone's discovered rope woven through the roots of a giant tree, half buried but untouched by rot. Down in the bay, a diver swears they saw strands wrapped around a coral outcrop glowing faintly in the tide. In a cave on the southern cliffs, a hunter found a sun symbol scrawled in charcoal, and one knot tied in the corner. No one knows how they got there. Maui's name is whispered again. You start keeping a journal. Day 1. Rope discovered in the garden. Coiled inside an uprooted kumara mound. Still warm. Smelled like flax and ash. Day 3. A traveling merchant swears his shadow flickered twice at noon. He looked up and saw a shimmer in the clouds. Day 5. The tide shifted late. Only by a few minutes. but it felt intentional. Some say it's the knots. That they didn't just slow the sun, but bind pieces of its spirit to the world, little anchors of light tucked into the land like seeds. You walk the coast in search of them. You don't always find rope. Sometimes it's just the way the sun filters through the trees, catching on one leaf while ignoring the others. Sometimes it's a flicker in the water when everything else is still. Once, you swear the sun winks at you between waves. You laugh out loud. No one's around, so it's safe. And then there's the story of the eastward fire. It comes from the neighboring village. Someone saw a low, glowing thread stretching across the sea, just beneath the waterline, heading back toward the sun's cave. A priest claims it's a sign. The ropes are dissolving. But you're not so sure. You think they're transforming. Historians still debate the nature of this tale, whether Maui's ropes were literal, symbolic, or simply poetic devices to explain seasonal daylight changes across Polynesia. But here, the land remembers, and the sky agrees. You hike to the high cliffs. Alone this time. It's late afternoon, and the light is thick, golden syrup poured slow over the ridges. You reach the top and sit with your knees drawn up, staring east. For a long while, nothing happens, just wind and distant gulls and the heartbeat of waves against stone. Then, just as you're about to head back, you see it, a knot, one of the original ones, still tied to a tree root, mostly hidden beneath moss and soil. You kneel, brush it gently. It's small now, frayed, fading, but alive. You touch it, it hums, and as the sun sets, casting long shadows across your hands, you feel something else, a quiet voice inside your chest. Not words, but weight, gratitude. You stay until the last bit of light disappears. You don't need to tie it down again. You trust it now. It won't run. It knows you're watching. And in the fading glow, you whisper to the rope, not a command, not a chant, just, thank you for staying. You don't plan to climb the mountain again. It just happens. One moment you're trading fish for root vegetables. The next you're staring up at the cloud-kissed peak thinking, what if there's a rope up there too? So you go. No fanfare, no gear, just you, your sandals, and the old spiral-stamped stone you keep tucked in your pouch. The climb is slow, but the sun gives you the time now. It doesn't push, it simply walks beside you. Halfway up, the wind picks up, sharp and clean, the kind that feels like it's trying to whisper something in your ear, but won't speak clearly unless you really pay attention. At the ridge, you pause to drink. A bird lands nearby, tilts its head, and flies off with what you're almost certain is one of your fraying sandal ties. Of course, you keep climbing, each step echoing with memory. This mountain, once so rushed, so sun-scorched, now feels gentle, patient, and then, at the very top, tucked beneath a ledge of volcanic stone, you see it, another rope, but this one's different. It hasn't burned, hasn't frayed, it's pristine, coiled like a sleeping eel, tucked beneath a mossy overhang. The charcoal markings still gleam faintly. You reach toward it, not to take it, just to be near it. And the moment your fingers hover close, the wind dies completely. Stillness, then warmth, and then, images. Not visions exactly, more like echoes pressed into your chest. You see Maui, standing on this very mountain, jawbone in one hand, rope in the other, watching the sunrise. But it's not the triumphant Maui you know. It's a quiet one, thoughtful, barefoot. He doesn't speak, he just nods once, then he's gone. You open your eyes, breath catching. The rope is glowing now. Just for a moment, then it dulls again, resting. You wonder if this is one of the last. Or maybe the first. Some say Maui tested the rope enchantments up here before trying them in the east. Others say this mountain was a place of balance long before ropes or tricks or stars. Historians still debate whether this mountain was ever considered sacred. No carvings have been found. No shrine foundations. But when you sit there now, breathing slow beside a rope that may or may not still hum with light, the labels stop mattering. You feel it, the sacredness. You descend at dusk, slower than before. As you walk, you pick a few herbs, rongoa, healing, not just for the body, but for memory. You think about giving them to the elders when you return. At the base of the mountain, you pass a stranger, a girl, No older than 10, barefoot, holding her own rope fragment. She stops you. Is it true? She asks. What part? That he tied up the sun? You smile. He slowed it. She squints up at the sky. Why? You crouch beside her. Because we asked him to. She doesn't move for a while. Just watches the clouds roll by. Then she grins and holds up her rope. I'm gonna learn the knots. You nod. Start with the spiral. You say. It remembers things. Later that night, you sit with the elders as promised, sharing the herbs and the story. One leans forward, whispering. Some say he didn't use ropes at all. You blink. Then how did he do it? He used time against itself. Tricked it into folding. Made the day longer not by catching the sun, but by stretching the space between sunrise and sunset. You consider it. It sounds absurd. It also sounds exactly like something Maui would try. Another elder chuckles. Or maybe he just told a good enough story that the sun didn't want to leave. And isn't that the real trick? That night, you stare into the fire. The spiral stone warm in your palm. You think about knots that aren't just for binding, but for holding meaning in place. You think about stories as ropes, and listeners as anchors, and the sun, still moving slowly outside, lighting it all from above. Not rushing, just watching. Morning brings with it something you haven't felt in a while, unease. It's subtle, the kind of feeling that brushes past you like a spiderweb strand across your skin. You can't see it, can't point to anything wrong. But it's there, humming under your ribs. You step outside and squint up. The sky is clear, the breeze gentle, the sun rising just as slowly as it has for weeks. But it feels different. Not angry, not rushed, just watchful. You spend the morning weaving with the elders. The rhythm helps, hands moving, flax whispering, but even they seem distracted today. Glancing upward more than usual. One pauses mid-twist and mutters. It's remembering. You ask what? She just shrugs. Whatever it wants to. That afternoon, something happens. You're helping reinforce the roof of a storage hut when someone shouts from the bluff. You drop the thatch bundle and run. At the edge of the cliffs, a small crowd has gathered. All eyes point east. And there, far off on the horizon, where the sea kisses the sky, is a streak of brightness. Not lightning, not sunrise. A flash, like something pulling itself loose. It disappears just as quickly. Silence follows. Then a voice, small and certain. One of the knots broke. No one says it out loud, but you all think it. The sun is stretching. You feel it in the light, just slightly harsher. Not burning, but less soft than before. The next few days blur. Rumors spread. Someone saw vines on the eastern ridge shriveling too fast. Someone else claims their mid-morning shadow looked shorter. The rope hanging above your door? It flickered in the heat one afternoon. Just once, but you saw it. And you start to wonder. What if the ropes weren't forever? Maui never promised permanence. He promised time. Borrowed time. One evening, you find yourself back near the spiral carved stone. A child is sitting beside it, building a small model of the sun using yellow shells and old fish bones. You sit with her in silence. Then she says, if the knots break, can we tie them again? You want to say yes. You really do. But you say, maybe. And that's when you remember something Maui once said, back when you were first weaving rope and burning your fingers. It's not just the knots that hold the sun, he told you. It's the story. As long as people remember what we did, the sun can't forget. You go home that night and light a small fire. Not for warmth, for writing. You take out your journal and begin recording everything. Every knot, every chant, every burn, every joke Maui told that made someone snort water out of their nose. And as the flame dances, you realize something. Stories are ropes. They loop through generations. They tie one heart to the next. They hold memories in place when the world starts to move too fast again. Historians still argue whether this tale of slowing the sun was a metaphor for seasonal change or simply a myth built to explain shadows. But here, in the glow of fire and ink, it becomes something else entirely. It becomes a promise. So, you gather the children the next morning. You bring rope, flax, charcoal. You teach them the spiral. You teach them the chant. You show them where Maui stood and where the cave still waits. And you tell them the truth. Not that the sun was defeated, but that it was seen and heard, and, just for a little while, it listened. You catch one of the brothers watching from a distance. He smiles, waves, then holds up a fist with his fingers curled, the old signal from that day at the cave. Still holding, still ready. That night, the moon rises early, bright and full. You lie beneath it, staring into the stars. They seem to pulse just a little stronger than usual. You whisper, "If you're listening, we remember." And for a moment, just one, the wind stills, the ropes hold, and the sky smiles. The days stretch longer now, but not just in light. In feeling. You notice it in the way people move. Not with panic, not with fear, but with a kind of alert gentleness. Like they're walking through a museum of living time. Every hour feels important, every shadow measured. You wake early, and for the first time in weeks, you feel it again, that subtle press of heat beneath your skin. Not the sun racing, but testing, pushing a little, checking the edges of its leash. The villagers begin to talk, not in fear exactly, but in murmurs. "I think my flax dried too fast this morning. I planted at dawn, and by mid-morning it already flowered. I swear my shadow didn't move for 3 breaths, then jumped all at once." No one mentions Māui, but you feel him in the air, as if the legend itself is stretching, yawning, wondering whether it's time to wake up again. You walk to the hill overlooking the eastern sea. And there, just at the horizon, another shimmer. Small, faint, a flash, like something trying to tug loose again. That night, the village calls a gathering. The elders sit in a circle, and you're asked to speak. You hesitate, then step forward, and you begin, not with panic, but with a story. The first rope, the first knot, the first time the sun didn't win. You tell them how it snarled and flared and burned. How Māui didn't fight it with hate, but with balance. How the ropes weren't made of magic, but of memory and will. Then you say the thing no one wants to say. "I think the sun is pulling again." A hush falls over the firelit circle. Then, from the back, a quiet voice. Then we remind it. It's one of the children. The girl with the spiral carvings. And suddenly, you know what to do. You and the elders begin planning, not to trap, not to battle, but to re-knot. You'll weave new ropes, not from flax this time, but from ritual, from shared hands, from retold stories. The very next morning, the entire village gathers. Rope-making resumes, songs are sung, charcoal drawings reappear. The spiral becomes a banner. One boy starts painting them on rocks. Another etches it into driftwood, tossing the pieces into the sea. "Let it remember," he says. You travel to neighboring villages. You carry the story. You don't demand belief. You just offer a memory. And they listen. Everywhere you go, people start tying knots again. In trees. In hair. In the corners of homes. Tiny spirals woven into mats. Carved into paddles. Painted onto sails. Historians would call it a revival of myth. A collective folklore moment. But you know better. It's a conversation. With the sky. You hear reports, strange ones. Sunlight bending at odd angles. A field of taro growing in perfect spirals. One woman claims her shadow wrapped around her legs and squeezed. Like a hug, she says. Some knots, it seems, are returning on their own. One day, you find something new at the edge of the eastward cave. A stone, smooth, warm, not from the sun, but from within. You pick it up and find, etched faintly into its surface, a spiral. Not yours, not the village's. Older, much older. You bring it home and place it beside your fire. You don't tell anyone, but you sit a little straighter when you do. The sun seems calmer for a while after that, but you keep weaving, keep teaching, keep remembering. Because now, you understand something that took you this long to feel fully. You don't stop the sun. You don't fight it. You hold it in place, with belief, with memory, with gentle, stubborn love. You go to bed that night and dream of Māui. Not fighting, not yelling, just sitting at the edge of the sea, grinning faintly, his jawbone resting beside him, watching the sun rise, slowly, willingly, and you feel him say, without words, "You've got this now." The tide is higher than usual today. You stand at the water's edge, watching the sea lap against the rocks in smooth, deliberate waves. It's not angry, just purposeful. Like it knows it's being watched. Like it's part of the story now. Because it is. Someone has carved spirals into the cliffs. Dozens of them. Some are big, obvious, cut with tools. Others are delicate, tiny swirls traced in fingertip-sized lines. Barely visible unless you're looking for them. You didn't make them. You're not sure who did. But they're multiplying. You walk the beach, spotting another, then another. Some have rope fragments tucked beside them. Some have shells placed in the center. Some are still warm, as if the stone itself is remembering something before it cools again. Back in the village, people have started tying sun knots. Small, tight braids wrapped around posts, gate frames, tree trunks. Knots that don't hold anything physically, but anchor something else. Belief, intention, respect. And then the word spreads. A rope has snapped. Not a ceremonial one, a real one. One of the original ropes. Still tied deep near the cave where the sun once rose wild and unbound. You don't need to be told. You feel it. That night, the sun stays out a little longer. Not enough for panic. Just enough for questions. One of Maui's brothers, who's been off wandering the outer coastlines, returns. He stands at the edge of the village fire and simply says, "The sun is pulling." No one argues. But no one fears either. Because this time, you're ready. The next morning, you head east, not alone. A dozen people walk with you, some elders, some children, some holding newly woven cords dyed with red ochre and moon ash. The brothers lead the way, their jawbones carried like badges of memory. You pass old markers, a burnt tree stump with a still intact spiral drawn in charcoal. A small pile of smooth rocks, each carved with a single word, hold. You reach the cave before dawn. The sky is quiet. The breeze smells like moss and heat. And then, you hear it. The hum. Not sound. Not light. Presence. You kneel, not to worship, but to listen. You place your hand on the earth. Warm. The sun hasn't emerged yet. But you feel it shifting beneath. Like a great beast flexing one limb. Testing old restraints. Not angry. Just curious. You lay your new rope across the threshold of the cave. You speak the chant. Others join you, softly, voices braided like the flax you carry. And when the sun rises, it pauses. For just a moment, long enough for breath. Then it moves, slowly, willingly, not because it must, because it chooses to. The rope glows for a second, just enough to catch the dewlight, then dims. The cave mouth cools. The shadows retreat. Someone sighs. Someone else wipes a tear. You don't cheer. You just stand together. Because you've learned something else now. The knots are not permanent. They never were. But the weaving? The telling? The remembering? That's what holds. You walk home under a steady sun. Someone begins singing a tune. It's old. You don't remember learning it. But you hum along. Everyone does. And behind you, deep in the cave, a new knot rests in place. Not made of rope, but of resolve. You wake before the sun. Old habit, maybe, or maybe some part of you just wants to make sure it's still listening. You sit outside with a cup of steaming tea, watching the sky darken into its lightest form of blue. The stars fade gently, not ripped away like before, but tucked under the horizon like someone folding up dreams. Then, without drama or roar, the sun peeks over the rim of the world. Slow, measured. And for a second, a tiny second, it pauses. As if to say, yes, I remember. You exhale, smiling. In the days that follow, the village shifts again, not because of crisis, but because of balance. People begin treating time differently. It's no longer something to race or fear or control. It's something to tend. A woman down the path begins teaching time weaving. Not how to make rope, but how to wrap stories into it. Each knot marking a memory. A person, a moment worth holding. She says the practice is ancient, forgotten, remembered again. You attend her first class. You learn to loop, birth, and loss, and joy into flax fibers until they hum with emotion. One child ties a knot and whispers the name of their grandfather. Another ties one in silence. You watch the rope grow. One day, a trader arrives from far down the coast, carrying news. Spirals are showing up everywhere. Carved into stone, painted on boats, etched into fishing knives, even baked into bread crusts. A pattern once held by the few now ripples across the many. The trader hands you a small package, inside, a smooth stone with a golden spiral burned into it. From the northern cliffs, he says, it was warm when we found it. You place it beside your fire, next to the first one. Now there are two. Someone suggests building a shrine. Not to worship, to remember. The idea spreads, not a grand temple, just a circle of stones, each with a single spiral, one from every family. Every traveler who's retied a rope, told a tale, whispered a chant. You help construct it at the village center. It grows slow, careful, every stone placed with intention. When it's done, the youngest child lays the final knot in the middle. A single flax cord dyed the color of sunrise. No one claps, no one speaks. You all just breathe together. The next morning, you visit the cave one more time. You walk alone. The path is worn now, not by feet, but by stories. When you arrive, you find something waiting. A new rope, tied across the cave mouth. You didn't bring it, no one did, but it's there, thinner than the others, tighter, glowing faintly. It pulses once as the sun rises, then settles. You don't touch it, you just sit. You don't need to chant, or bind, or burn. You just watch. And when the sun climbs, it does so gently, like it knows it's being witnessed. Not by force, not by fear, but by love. Because this is the part no one tells in the legend. The greatest knot isn't one that holds. It's one that releases, and still remains. You return from the cave different. Not in the way a hero returns, bloodied, triumphant, carrying some glowing artifact, but in the way a river changes course after a long, soft rain. Quiet, permanent, unseen by most, but impossible to reverse. The sun rises and sets with grace now. Not perfectly. Some days it lingers too long. Others, it seems almost playful, slipping behind a cloud just to see who's still paying attention. But the days are no longer stolen. They are shared. Your hands remember knots, but your heart remembers rhythms. You wake not with urgency, but with curiosity. What will today's light feel like? What shape will its warmth take? You begin teaching, not just children, but anyone who asks. You teach how to listen to the sky, how to mark the time in stories instead of sunburns, how to hold silence the way others hold rope, with trust that it will return. One afternoon, a traveler arrives from across the sea. He carries no weapons, no gifts, just a bundle of old rope, coiled tightly, and a story almost identical to yours, but with a different cave. A different sun, a different Maui, and you realize, this isn't just your tale. It never was. The sun was caught in many places, by many hands, through different chants, different knots, different names, each story a thread in a much larger braid. Historians still debate the spread of these legends across the Polynesian world, whether they emerged separately or from one root myth that stretched like a shadow across the ocean. But you don't debate it anymore. You feel it. The truth isn't in the origin. It's in the weaving. You and the traveler sit by the fire late into the night, trading verses, comparing knots. At one point, you hold up your spiral stone. He reaches into his pouch and pulls out one just like it, except his curves the other direction. You both laugh. Mirror spirals, twin stories. The next morning, you walk together to the village shrine. It has grown since you last looked. New stones, new carvings, new ropes coiled around the central post like vines that bloom only in memory. The child who laid the first knot is older now. They light a candle and whisper. Still holding. You add your spiral stone to the ring. The traveler does the same. And for a moment, you feel time pause, not like a threat, not like a battle, but like a friend stopping to say hello. You close your eyes. You see the sun, not as a fireball, not as a god, but as a presence, patient, ancient, listening, still walking with you, still responding to the knot you tied long ago, not with rope, but with remembrance. Blank, underscore, blank. Wind down, 300 words. And now, as the light softens outside your window and the shadows stretch long and kind across the floor, you let yourself rest. You've journeyed far, across mountains, through flame, into stories older than stone, and all to chase a single truth. That time, when treated with care, will treat you with care in return. You lie back now, body heavy, breath slower, wrapped in the quiet trust that not everything must be hurried, that not every day must be chased, that some things are meant to unfold slowly, like rope unwinding, or the sky turning from gold to indigo. You think of Maui, not as a wild trickster, but as a gentle teacher, someone who asked the world to slow down, not for power, but for peace. You think of the knots, not as traps, but as touchstones, reminders that effort matters, that memory holds, that even the sun, that tireless runner in the sky, can be persuaded to wait, if only for a moment. Outside, the stars blink to life. Quiet, familiar, watching. You whisper to the sky. Just once, we remember. And something, somewhere, whispers back. So do I. Sleep now. Let the night wrap around you like a spiral, soft and steady, drawing you into the calm space between breaths, between stories, between the rise and fall of light. Sleep well, dreamer. The sun will still be here in the morning. End of script. Sweet dreams.